gang, welcome back to another video here at Joe Daddy's Garage. Today it's a bit different. I am experimenting while I'm making this video. I also have a live stream going up in the corner of the shop, and I'm having it on my laptop so I can see what's going on, but I set the camera way up high in the corner so that people can see what's going on. This is going to be a continuation of the transmission issues, the engine issues that I'm having with the Brooklyn Pony. Okay, if you've seen the other videos, this is going to be Brooklyn Pony 40C, I guess, in the sequence. But if you saw the other videos, you already know that I mocked up the 351 Windsor with the AOD transmission and set it down in the car to see what kind of clearance issues it may have. Now, I've gotten a lot of feedback on that, and that's great. That's what I wanted. I wanted people to respond and give me some ideas and what to look for, and what to maybe not do. So it was pointed out real quick that the 351 Windsor has a different oil pan than the 302 based engine. So that's fine. It's good to know. I know that the block itself, the mount points are the same, the length and all that sort of thing isn't really going to change anything. But it's good to know about the oil pan, because it was suggested that I pull the oil pan off of the crate engine and put it on the 351 Windsor. Obviously, you can't do that. Now, what I plan to do today, and the biggest concern is the oil pan clearance right now, but what I plan to do today is bring the car back off the lift, bring it forward up into this location here, and set up my hoist, pull that assembly back out, because obviously it's not going to work, and then I want to uncrate the 347 sitting here behind me and get it set into the car as best I can. So while this video is going on, there will be a live stream of this event, and I plan to just let it run. I want people to see what's going on. There's people at home, with nothing better to do because the coronavirus has got people in their homes, and so I just thought it'd be interesting, and that's going to be it. So let's get started. Alright, what I wanted to point out on this little video sequence here is I've removed the carburetor, set it aside, and removed the distributor. Now in this case, the distributor plug wires are all numbered, so that's an easy one to address. And taking off your carburetor or the distributor, go ahead and tape off all these openings. You don't want anything getting inside of this thing. And everything else should be fine. It's shouldn't be necessary to tape over the header ports, because there's really no reason anything should be getting in there, but coming from the top, that can be an issue. Now what I have to do is figure out a good way to lift this up, and at this point I've got some of the bolts that I used for the bell housing. They were the 5/8 grade 8 bolts that I had bought. They were 2 1/4 or 2.5 inches long, and they fit in the front of the cylinder heads. So I think I have one of those adjustable carriers that I bought that I can put up here, so I can wind it back and forth and make it tilt, and I'm going to try to work it out so I can get that connected. So I have this engine on this Powerbilt 1500 engine leveler, and I did get this off of Amazon. And the way this works, it has 4 mount points, so you have a chain to go to either side, and I'm coming off of the cylinder heads in this case. Same way on the front, off the cylinder head. And I'm also put a paper towel here to help keep this from getting damaged. That'll put the pressure on that instead. And then the way this works is you can tilt this back and forth. If you turn this crank one way or the other, it changes this position basically, and it lets the load become heavier or lighter based on where this is at on the bar. So when you're trying to set something in and you need to tilt it, you can turn the crank and tilt it back or tilt it forward. So I'm going to try to get this up in the air, and then I still have to mount the engine mounts and go from there. And you know what's interesting? I'll point this out. I want to point it out here as well. This engine has been dynoed. It had to have been test run. There's soot inside the cylinder heads and the exhaust ports, and you can see where there was something attached to it. So this engine has been on a run-up machine. Definitely. Now this gives me a better view of that oil pan. I know this is a big concern with the fitment, so I'm going to talk about that. So there it is hanging in the air, and what I did is I did tape off the exhaust ports just as a precaution, and just, you know, better safe than sorry. Now this gives me a better look at that oil pan. This has been a thorn in the side of this process, because that oil pan, I'm concerned with how it's going to interact with the cross member. So as I look at it, now I can see more of this pan. So the width of the pan at the rear is really 10 3/4. It's a lot bigger in the back than I initially suspected. Now going towards the front, it tapers. You can see it's got an offset there on this corner. Now, I'm not sure why they built it that way. I guess we'll find out, but there's nothing in the way of this pan now, of this section. So this is 7.5 inches to that transition where it goes up. This is going to be interesting. Now, the company name on it says Champ Pans. I don't see a part number, so I don't know exactly, you know, what model this is or anything like that, but it's obviously an aluminum pan, at least by its appearance, and weld, I'm going to say it's aluminum, and we're going to see if that's going to clear. Hopefully this fits in that pocket, because, you know, if it was dead center, that offset right there, if that corner on this side was lopped off the same way, I'd feel a lot better about it, but I don't know. We'll find out. Not good. Man. Well, I was hoping for better results. At this point, I moved the engine as far aft as I can on the engine mounts or motor mounts, and I have clearance issues. So, as I mentioned before, the pan has a, you know, offset dimension up on the front, and the left side, or the passenger, the right side, passenger side, has an angled piece. if I zoom in down here and try to catch this at the right angle, there's where the problem lies. The corner of that cutout is too big, or the corner of the oil pan is too big. So they're basically overlapped about 1.25 inches, 1.5 inches, and I'm not sure what we want to do. So either if the pan had been angled off, tapered off like the other side, it probably would have been fine, but it's not. So my options, I believe, are to modify the cross member, which I have no problem with that, or modify the oil pan, which I'm not going to do, or replace the oil pan with another one, which I'd rather not do that either because I want to keep this thing sealed. So, let's see if I can get another angle here. There you can see better. That part of the oil pan is hitting, or will hit, the cross member. Now mind you, the engine is not sitting at the angle it needs to be, and it's not as low as it needs to be just yet. So it has a little bit to go on the bolt holes for the mount points. It's close on this side. Alright, but if you were to look at the, see if I can get a good angle here. If you look at the height of the front and rear, let's say of the mount, the rear section has to go down. Probably, I don't know, 3/8 of an inch or so. The reason for that is it has to position the engine at the right angle, and that's how those mounts are designed. So not only do we have a problem with currently the way the pan is hitting the mount, or the cross member, but basically if the engine is lowered in the back like it's supposed to be, it's going to interact even more. So this may take a couple of tries to modify that cross member. Let me see if I can get another position with this light. So there you can kind of see a little bit better maybe. And then from this angle, there's a pocket there, but now mind you, that pocket is at a taper. Okay, so it angles down and to the rear. So it might be a couple of things that have to happen. One is modify that notch to make it bigger, and I may have to move that cutout. Instead of being, it's like at a 45-degree angle, I may have to shorten that just a little bit to make clearance for the front edge of the pan. So we'll get more into that later on, but that's where I'm at. Not exactly the result I was looking for. But, that's part of the process. Anytime you're building a car, doing modifications, mixing parts and whatever, you're going to run into some fitment issues. So in this case, the modifications may be, again, the cross member, getting a different oil pan. I'm not going to cut and modify this oil pan, I can tell you that. Not my thing. I'm not going to do that. But I think probably the easiest fix, at least at this point, is the modifying the cross member. Now, I do want to point out, and I'll probably do a little bit of footage of this if I haven't already, is the front sump actually clears the front section there with the rack and pinion and all the plumbing lines and that sort of thing. And in fact, it'll even improve as the engine drops down in the back a little bit. So here's a shot of the front sump, and you can see, there's a gap between the pan and the hard lines, and that's plenty of room. In fact, it's going to even get better as the rear of the engine goes a little bit lower. So no issues with the front. Pretty happy at least with that. So, I'll talk with the owner and we'll come to a conclusion as to what we should do. At this point, I'm leaning towards modifying the notch and maybe even moving the notch slightly forward, just a little, because I'm not afraid to weld stuff and I know it'll be strong. If you look back at these cars, they originally had just a tubular cross member that was bolted to the car. It wasn't even welded in. And in this case, all this has been reinforced and kind of overbuilt in a sense. So I don't think it's that critical to lose a little bit here and a little bit there. Just my opinion. I could be wrong. If anybody has any advice on that, please, by all means, leave a comment, let me know. And that's going to be, again, the end of this video. But at least we're figuring things out and getting closer to really getting this thing coming together. So anyway, I want to thank you for watching. Thank you for subscribing. Leave a thumbs up, leave a comment, and let me know what you think about this kind of video. I'm trying to educate and entertain all at the same time. Hopefully you find this entertaining and, of course, educational. So until next time, take care of yourselves. Okay, so I have the engine on. Oh, see, I messed up. You guys messed me up. Oh. Now, as I said, the front sump appears to have plenty of room with the and again, it's going to lean back. The engine, as the engine leans back, it's going to be even better. So